Indebted South Africans could have their debt written off soon. The National Credit Amendment Bill aims to provide relief to low-income earners by erasing part or all of their debt. The bill's been sent to President Cyril Ramaphosa to be signed into law. Let's talk about this some more. We're joined by Norton Fulbright attorneys Riccardo, Petersen. Riccardo, good morning.
Good morning.
And thanks for your time this morning. So who qualifies, who would qualify for this, what would we call it, reprieve, I suppose?
Yeah, so it's going to be consumers who have a overall principal unsecured debt of 50,000 Rand. So when we talk about unsecured debt, we're talking about your credit facilities, your store cards, your credit cards, which is not backed up by any form of security. So anybody who has a 50,000 Rand debt over all of these credit agreements does not exceed a 50,000 Rand cap will qualify, together with the other three elements, which is they must earn no income, or if they do earn an income, they must have a gross income of 7,500 Rand 6 months preceding the application for debt intervention. Then thirdly, they must be over-indebted. And then lastly, they must not be subject to a sequestration order or administration order.
Okay, so I suppose, you know, you'd have to ask, why would we need a bill for this to happen? You know, we've seen people struggle with debt for decades now.
100%. So I think what the intention of the bill was, most of these low-income consumers, you'll see, is a specific group of low-income consumers who are suffering and who are never, they can't simply get out of their dire financial constraints and the issues that they're facing with finances. And the idea was that most of these consumers go through sequestration and incur a whole host of costs. And when you sequestrate an individual like that, the creditors sit with nothing because there's nothing to attach, there's nothing to take. And the idea was to try and get some form of bill in place that will alleviate this financial pressure on these consumers. What the bill envisages is either trying to rearrange the consumer's debt by simply writing off some of their interest, their fees and charges. The other step is to suspend the agreement for a period up to 24 months. And then lastly is the one that's more importantly for most consumers, is potentially having the debt written off in its entirety or percentage of the debt.
So how does it deal with, or how would it prevent, I suppose, in a way, any type of fraud or people misrepresenting themselves to be able to qualify?
So what the bill has done is to look at consumers who apply for debt intervention and has inserted provisions where consumers must truthfully, intentionally give correct information, accurate information to the regulator when they conduct this debt intervention application. Secondly, they must not alter their financial position in order to qualify for debt intervention. If any of those signs are there, it's an offence and they suffer the consequence of potential imprisonment for 2 years or fine being imposed. So it's quite hefty if you think about it, but it also places an obligation on the consumer to be truthful and regarding the entire process with the regulator and the tribunal.
So overall, let's talk about what effect this is going to have on both lenders and consumers then.
Your lenders, for the lenders, it's obviously a big blow because financially it's a big hole in their pocket now. They need to reconsider. If this happens, if the bill is signed by the President, what will happen is lenders will sit out of pocket financially in the sense that interest and fees might be written off, as I said. The debt might be written off in its totality. So lenders have to think about ways of communicating with the regulator to try and find a way to assist these consumers. I know lenders have been trying all along to try and assist them in trying to find plans to rearrange the debt to see if they can help these consumers. But for them, it's financially going to be a straining exercise. For consumers, number one is they need to be truthful and honest about this process and going to the process not with the intention that everything is going to be written off. It's a very long process to get to getting to the debt being written off. But they need to be very, very conscious of that fact. And secondly, they need to make sure that there's a program, a literacy program that the regulator will roll out. So it's not just simply going in there. There's a literacy program to educate all of these consumers on how to manage their funds better.
And that was my next question, was you know, how, once somebody gets their debt written off, they're going to go, oh, that's easy, I could probably do this again in a couple of years. How do we make sure that the same people are not coming back for the same sort of treatment?
Okay, so what's happened is what the bill envisages is two things. It does do the literacy program. What the credit regulator must do is roll out a training and counselling for these individuals, the consumers, to make sure that they don't go and fall into the same trap again. That's the first thing. The second thing, what they're importantly trying to implement is to make sure that all the consumers know, obviously, what they get into when they take out the debt. Importantly, that they can't apply for further credit. They can't go out and get more credit for a period of up to 12 months after going through this process. The regulators also put in measures to review the consumer's financial position every 8 months once an order has been made. So where a suspension order has been made, the regulator after 8 months can go and review the position of the consumer to see whether the consumer can afford to rearrange his debt in a way to pay off all his creditors.
Okay, so don't think you can go back all the time and say, write off my debt. It's not going to
No,
happen.
so
It's not
you
gonna be that easy.
I mean,
Okay.
you can't actually do
Okay,
that
well,
all
we're
the
still
time.
waiting for the president to sign this.
100%.
So we'll wait for that decision and then see what happens, or for that signature. Thank you very much.